Welcome to the Dirty Side of Leadership podcast with Ron and Kristin, where leadership meets entertainment. This podcast features stories with names and certain aspects that have been changed to keep submissions private. Enjoy the show.
Welcome back to the Dirty Side of Leadership podcast, where leadership meets entertainment. I'm Kristin, and I'm joined by my co-host and recovering government manager, Ron Ward. How's that going, Ron?
Well, I'm in recovery, so it's one day at a time. One day at a time.
Exactly.
Some days I find myself wanting to apply for government positions, and then I do the steps, and I'm okay.
The steps. Hey, I have a lot of respect for that. Today, we are diving into a topic that's been making waves in organizations everywhere. And new research suggests that young people in the workforce are actively avoiding management roles. And this trend is so widespread that it's been labeled conscious unbossing. What is causing it?
Yeah, that's very interesting. So, as with other norms, Gen Z has flipped the perception of management jobs on its head. New research shows that more than half of young professionals don't want to enter a management role at any point in their career.
Wow, that's big. Gen Z's doing a lot. They're changing things left and right.
They really are. And Kristin, tell me if this was the way it was at the bank, but and I do think there were problems with this, because this is how you get managers who are just not leaders. They have no leadership ability. But in my world, now that you always had some personality types that didn't want management roles, but generally speaking, by the time you've been on like 10 years, you are expected that you should be a manager. You've reached management. And that was just across the board for especially for government. Is that the way it was in banking?
Yeah. And it was even before 10 years. It's like we're at the 2-year mark in banking, and we're like talking about, working your way up from, teller, banker, assistant manager, manager. That was just the expectation. And once in a while, when I did have an employee who didn't want to progress, I remember being like really taken aback by that. Like, whoa, really? You just want to be the worker bee? And now that's the norm. And I don't like this.
Yeah, I do too. I remember a young person come to me and said, I've got a chance to apply for a management role. This shows you how I've evolved. But they said, I think it's going to interfere with work, family, harmony, balance or something. And I remember going like, are you crazy? You got to take that management role. These come along once in a lifetime. And I thought I was so right. And,
right.
I, of course, said you can balance both or something to that effect. But I've definitely evolved on this point.
I have too. Big changes since 2020 for a lot of folks. And, though we're seeing that 36% of young people surveyed expect that they will take on a management role eventually, they say they don't want to do it. And, digging deeper, 16% also say that they're going to actively avoid management positions altogether. And this trend has been coined conscious unbossing, as we mentioned earlier. And it's produced a notable shortage of individuals aspiring to get into managerial positions throughout the United States.
Yeah, we better take this one very seriously, especially if you're in a management role or you own a business, that's for sure. Again, it seems the traditional view of climbing the corporate ladder is no more. I think it's more of walk the plank or something, Kristin, that they see it instead of climbing a ladder. As you know, I do a presentation as a part of my leadership training where I bring in a step ladder. And I show climbing and how your perception changes, the communication changes, and it's a powerful illustration. But maybe I need to get something like a tightrope that I do in the future.
That would be awesome for training.
Yeah, you just want to see me fall.
No, I want to walk the tightrope myself.
Oh, okay.
I love a challenge like that. Former gymnast, I can't help it.
There you go.
But so to kick things off, let's consider some reasons behind this major shift. And one factor is the changing perception of work-life balance. I mentioned 2020. I really feel like things changed drastically at that point. There's there's been this switch, and many are valuing this balance, this work-life balance over traditional career advancement. And after personally experiencing it, I get it. I get it.
Yeah, I do too. I just talked to someone that runs a small business, and they literally said that the post-COVID work era has drastically changed the way people perceive. And the first question, he says, when younger people come in, the first question is, do you have a hybrid work opportunity? They want to make sure that they can work from home part of the time, and they want to come in the office, which I thought it was all telework, but that's not what studies are showing now. And people are saying they want a combination. And I get that as well, having, been working home alone during COVID. It got a little lonely at times.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It's just such a different world. Those water cooler conversations that do happen in the office, you miss that. At least I did.
Yeah, it's true. So I found a study that 80% of employees today prioritize work-life balance over career advancement. Now, the numbers vary a little bit from what we told you, so keep that in mind. There's different surveys, but this one was high as 80%. And many are realizing that the marginal role often comes with an avalanche of responsibilities that can lead to burnout. And of course, we did an episode on bore-out syndrome, and that's people who are bored at work, and this is the opposite, but it's got some similarities. It's burnout. And I have burned out before, Kristin. It's a bad place to be. So once again, I get it.
Yeah, and that was a very popular episode. And the topic was recommended by a good friend and loyal listener of ours, Justine. Thank you for that again.
Thank you, Justine.
But it makes sense. So managers face extended hours, can talk about that for a long time, and heightened responsibilities. And that is what leads to this burnout. And I remember as a bank manager, I worked 6 days a week for... again, this is, I would say 6 days a week, twice a week. So I worked like Monday through Friday, twice a month. And then I would do Monday through Saturday, twice a month. So I had very little time off and very little balance. And I'll be honest, that was harmful to my marriage. And because it was really interesting. Of course, I'm married to a law enforcement officer, and so they have crazy hours. And so we were like two ships passing in the night. But regardless, when you are working so much, and most managers are on salary, not hourly, and so they can work you as much as they want, and they don't have to pay you more. So it's a really tough predicament to be in.
Yeah, it really is. Salary, like that used to be the big buzzword. You remember when it said like, I got put on salary. That was a great thing. But then you realize as you become a manager, and when I became academy director, it was extremely rare that I worked 40 hours. There was always something going on. And here's the other thing that I don't know how it is. I'm sure it's the same where you live, Clackamas or somewhere that you live.
You said it right. Nice work.
Did I?
Yeah, wow. It's Native American too, so a lot of people slaughter it.
So the traffic had gotten so bad in Charleston that became one of my biggest dreads. So keep that in mind, that you're taking on all this additional responsibility, your own salary. You certainly want to be there early to set a good example, maybe even leave late. Then you got to deal with traffic. I was always gone at a minimum of 10 hours a day.
Oh, yeah.
So that's another factor that I would love to have had hybrid work environment. But at that time, the government frowned on it. And of course, it's very work specific, because we had a lot of instructors that had to be there, be present. So you want to set a good example. Anyway, there's a lot of other factors I'm saying that's not considered. So I understand Gen Z and some millennials who are saying this. Kristin, in my book, I picked on middle managers. I called them M&M because middle managers wield a lot of power in an organization. For example, if let's say that, I'm one of the executives and I tell you, hey, Kristin, please notify your staff that we're going to start having a weekly virtual meeting. The way you present that message is so important. You could literally say, Ron's trying to micromanage again, da-da-da. Or you
Yeah.
could come and say, hey, guys, we're going to get listened to. And I know we've discussed that part before. So I picked on middle managers. But I interviewed someone not long ago who voluntarily took a demotion and lost about 20 grand a year. And I told you I'm a recovering government manager. So even now, this wasn't long ago. It was still difficult for me, my brain, but I realized it was wise.
Yeah.
But this person said that the message from above would vary so much from day to day. And then he had the pressure of delivering the message to staff. And then staff would complain to him. And then he would try to massage as much as he could to get the needs and things above. So I started realizing, and he described himself as he was the middle of a tug of war.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I still thought, I want to come up with solutions like, isn't there something you could do, meet with your manager? But I realized it was taking a toll on his health. And he said, this is going to make me sick. Like if I don't. So I said, kudos to you. Kudos to you. And so he stepped down, took a demotion.
Hey, that's a huge move. And I was in middle management pretty much 15 years out of my 20-year career. And so I understand having to deliver a message that you don't necessarily endorse. It's not your voice and it's not what you would do, but it's what is being required of you. And that is a difficult place to be in. But to your point, you have to be professional and you can't just say, we have to do this, right? You have to.
Yeah.
I had talked in previous episodes about relaying a difficult message. Let your team have that moment to work through a few frustrations with you. And then after we leave, here's when it's implemented, right? We had our moment to work through it. But it's a tough place to be in, middle management. So yeah, you can pick on us, Ron. I understand, but but if you do get one that's going to gripe and groan and not be professional, that's a really negative place to be in. Another interesting point is the evolving expectations of younger generations in the workforce and millennials and Gen Z employees. They're seeking meaningful work. We've talked about this before, a little bit more of the warm and fuzzy. They want a supportive culture rather than traditional advancement. And this is leaving employers in a position to hire potentially less qualified individuals versus having the best, because a lot of the best are opting for flex roles or becoming an entrepreneur of sorts. So that's a difficult place for leaders to be in within these businesses in the United States.
Yeah, I would love to hear from our audience about the entrepreneurship because the internet and social media in particular has made entrepreneurship quite sexy.
Right.
And I talk to a lot of younger people. That's what they aspire to do. Now, some of their motives is, I want to work few hours and make a lot of money. That's the way they perceive entrepreneurship. But there's no doubt that social media and these successful people who are entrepreneurs have influenced that. And I don't think we realize the impact of social media in some of the things that we're discussing. My daughter is Gen Z, my youngest daughter, and Kristin, she's very balanced. She comes in from work, she does her workout, she eats healthy. She also really knows how to take care of herself. I will be talking to her and she'll go, yeah, I scheduled a massage for tomorrow at noon or whatever on Saturday. Or she will literally say, I'm exhausted. I need to take a hot bath and go to bed.
Good for her. That's huge.
It is good for her. And see, in my age group, none of that mattered. You got the job done, period.
Right. Yeah.
And when I start my trainings, I tell everyone that we need to shift from command and control to coach. And that's exactly what a coach does. They take care of the team. They take care of if you've twisted an ankle, they take care of that. So I do admire that. And I wish I had it, but also your brain goes, well, you'd have probably got fired at that point in time.
So true.
Different I took work on vacations. It was just crazy. So I'm kind of, I hope the pendulum has swung and we're going to get to this place of balance, which we all desire, but hard to
Yeah.
get to sometimes.
Well, on that topic, Ron, like, so everyone listening, or at least that's listened for a couple episodes, understands that I currently direct a homeschool program, and my group is the 8th graders. I'm going to do the freshmen next year, but we have like 4 projects that are coming due. This is the end of the year right now. And I was like, you know what? Here's what I want to do. You already have so many projects. Another one was within our curriculum. And I was like, with this one, I'm going to cut the work in half. And of course, the overachievers are like, wait, but it says we have to do A, B, C, and D. I'm like, you are already stressed to the max. You have so much due. These other things take, these are the utmost importance. So let's focus on those. Just do half of this. And it was I was taking care of their mental health. And I think it's really important. And that's just, a group of 8th graders, but it's really important that leaders do that for their teams. And I see myself as the leader of these students, but you have to factor in, it might say do A, B, C, and D, but if D is not necessary, can we drop D so that A, B, and C are done really well? And we can hold the mental health together, if you will.
And Kristin, the average Gen Z I read will switch jobs 8 to 12 times. And
wow.
Now some of those are entry-level jobs and, restaurants, things like that, food and bev. But they want purpose. And if they don't believe in, like, they're not the factory worker where you just mold something over and over and over, that is not going to inspire Gen Z at all.
Right.
And they want to feel that the company is doing something. And that's another good quality. I do think our work should have purpose.
Yeah.
And so there was a high percentage, around 70%, said that they wanted to have purpose in their purpose over profit. So if you are listening and running a company, you have to think of that. What is the purpose? And have you explained it? Kristin, I wrote about the difference between vision and mission. And I said it's so interesting that companies think if they put the vision statement on their letterhead or at the bottom, that it's going to inspire people. And that's nothing but words. It has to become fabric. They have to believe in it. And I remember someone telling me that they brought an extra shirt. As soon as they got in a car, they would jerk off their company shirt and put a T-shirt on because they didn't want to be seen. They did not believe in the company, didn't like the company. And that's a sad place to be.
It is. And I think at that point, you got to go. If you can't even wear the shirt outside of the building, you got to go.
Well, this person was planning their exit strategy. Trust me.
Okay,
so,
that's good.
Yeah.
I mean, good for both. It's one of those things. You also have to, the employees and the employer and the company needs to do a better job. But then also, if you are self-realizing that you're miserable, time to put some action behind it. Something we haven't touched on yet is the impact of technology. And with the rise of remote work and the flexible arrangements like hybrid, I had a hybrid schedule for a while there. Many workers are enjoying this greater freedom and flexibility in their roles, and which is making this rigid structure of management much less appealing. Again, understandably.
I have heard of companies that you can telework, but the managers do not. So that's exactly right. Or you've got a situation where a hybrid work environment, but the managers are stuck there. So who wouldn't?
That one doesn't make sense to me. But
it does happen.
Yeah. Oh, I believe it. Some interesting decisions made out there.
So, Kristin, I love this point, and I think we've built a really good foundation here of what employers can look at and look for. But the other one is, and I love this about Gen Z, they want to be in an environment that's creative. So they don't just want purpose over profit. They want to be involved in creativity. Remember, they're digital natives. They've been solving problems online and observing all of these things. So it is so important to be as transparent as you can and bring, instead of showing them what you all develop, the managers develop, you bring these young people in and help them solve the problem, help them engage in creativity. And this is a side note, but in one of my trainings called Bring Humor Back, and we did one, Is Humor Still a Thing, an episode, but on Bring Humor Back, it says that managers who use some level of humor, their employees are over 30% more likely to solve a creative problem if the manager uses some personality.
Oh, amen to that. I mean, I remember being in meetings, I'm sure you were too, and I didn't remember those who were presenting that just were presenting facts and stats without personality. I remembered the ones that made me laugh. And then everything that they shared along with those laughs, it was like my eyes and ears remained open and I was engaged because they made me laugh. I mean, it's as simple as that. And we could go into the psychology of that, but it is very important. People want you to be human and relatable. So I think that's very impactful. What everything we're talking about, what does this mean for organizations? I would say they need to rethink their leadership development strategies. That's an overarching change that needs to be made.
Yeah, exactly. It is paramount that managers create other managers, or leaders create leaders, as they say. So if you are complaining, if you're exhausted, if you're, always given a negative aspect of management, they're not going to aspire to be that.
Right.
But I remember seeing some really cool people who did the job. They made it look interesting, and there was some buy-in there. And I remember wanting to be like them. So people are going to judge management based on their manager. As we've said so many times, people don't leave companies, they leave managers. Also, they can be inspired by managers to play the role. I do remember the first Academy director, when she retired, she was larger than life. And the last element we were going to plug in, I'll just go ahead and add this, Kristin, was fear. And I remember that imposter syndrome where you feel like, I'm not in her level. Like, she came from DC and she was big time. And I thought, gosh, how am I going to fill her shoes? But studies did show that the last element we want to go into is fear, just fear. Can I do all of this? Because the whole management structure, as Kristin said, was thrown off its kilter when COVID happened. And there's still after effects. We're going to deal with the after effects. I hate even mentioning the lockdowns, and I really do. But there's this ripple effect that we're going to deal with for probably 20 years, it's estimated. So people saw managers having to adjust to an online platforms when they used to be in person, and they had to deal with all the stress that's related to that. They had to look at training differently, hiring differently. So it created a fear. So they're afraid to apply for a management position. They think it's just too much. It's overwhelming.
Right. And, it's wild, but that we even have to say things like this. But for organizations listening, or people that work within organizations in a leadership role, it's so important that organizations recognize that leadership doesn't only come from titles and those aspiring to. Leaders can emerge at any level. And I think this is huge. I was always as a leader in my role, looking for that leadership personality. I didn't care if they were a teller. Maybe I was going to Target on my lunch break, and one of the checkers, I could see that they were a good leader. I can spot it anywhere and at any level. And fostering a culture of collaboration and purpose and balance can inspire those who might not have considered management before. But to your point earlier, Ron, you can inspire them to go in that direction because they're appreciative of how you have led, and they've been able to watch that, and that's rubbed off on them. And so we can really pave the way. Leaders can pave the way for future leaders and make it appealing. Make leadership appealing again, Ron.
That's exactly right. And if there's, again, company leaders listening, you need to have a management development program. There's some people worry about pre-selection or what it looks like, but you need to start some type of program, whether it's lunch and learns or whatever. Start sharing your experiences and motivate people to go into management, but also try to structure your work so there is some work-life harmony. And they don't have to, leave after 25 years with high blood pressure. We've still got a lot of work to do as it comes to profits and return on investment, but we have to see people as an investment. I remember one government agency, they always called your workforce, your talent, they called it human capital. Could you be any more stale than human capital?
Yeah.
Yep. So I determined in my soul that I would not use that term, even though it was a common government term. Right. I tried to say staff, or sometimes you would say employees. But when you have that type of jargon, no wonder people don't feel inspired to want to go into management.
It sounds like a number, right?
It does. Human capital. How many children?
I visualize like a big pile of humans. You know what I mean? Just like...
I wanted you to tell your children, like, come here, little human capitals.
Oh, my goodness. Oh, yeah. I didn't have that term in banking, but yeah, I've definitely heard it before, and it doesn't do anything for me. I think we just need to remember it's not about climbing the corporate ladder. It's also about creating a meaningful impact. Wherever you are, in whatever role you are, you have to create that impact, and that lasting impact that people will remember for decades and aspire to be like.
That's exactly right. So, Kristin, maybe our title, The Dirty Side of Leadership, maybe we're the reason that no one wants to go into management. But
oh, goodness.
No, guys, we really appreciate a quick announcement. We did reach the 10,000 download that we were notified by Buzzsprout that we've got 10,000 downloads, which is pretty remarkable, but Chris and I are never satisfied with that. And so we're going for that 25,000 mark, and we're brainstorming some ways that we can get there. But we really appreciate you. Obviously, if you're listening right now, you are faithful to the podcast, and it's put us, another level of where we want to be. So thank you so much.
And I love when listeners either send me a message on Instagram or Facebook, or some of them have my cell phone number and they text me pictures of it on their screen while they're driving, and I can see that they're listening to our podcast. So I love that. Thank you very much for sharing.
We do love to hear from you guys, for sure.
Yeah.
All right. Be the leader you're meant to be.
We'll see you next week.
The Dirty Side of Leadership podcast is brought to you by Forward Operations. If you'd like to book Ron or Kristin for speaking events, training, or executive coaching, visit forwardoperations.com. Be the leader you're meant to be.